everyone. Time now 8:16. A lesbian couple in New Jersey say they were unfairly prevented from getting health insurance coverage for infertility treatments. Now, the married women are now suing over the very specific way New Jersey law defines infertility. Elaine Keano spoke to the couple about their painful experiences trying to have a child.
Good morning. Aaron and Marianne Krupa got married in 2013 with the intention, they say, of starting a family. They tell us they've spent about $50,000 on multiple infertility treatments, including IVF with donor sperm. But a law which might otherwise have required their insurance company cover the treatments didn't apply to them, a violation, they say, of their constitutional rights. How did you all decide who would actually carry the baby? And did you have, that's a pretty serious discussion.
Actually, that was one of the easier discussions. We just said, you're older, you go first. We didn't really think that it was going to be this huge battle.
But it has been a battle in the effort to expand this family. Doctors 3 years ago told Erin they'd discovered issues with her reproductive system that left her infertile. What followed was a series of heartbreaks, 6 miscarriages between the two of them.
Every time we heard we were pregnant, every single time. And your brain just goes down this path. You think about that kid and what it's going to mean to you, and then it just gets taken away in an instant.
New Jersey is one of 15 states with laws requiring insurers to cover fertility treatments. But the Krupas say their insurance company initially denied their coverage because under New Jersey law, women their age are considered infertile if they're not able to conceive after 2 years of unprotected intercourse. As you're looking at this law and realizing this doesn't apply to us, what went through your mind?
I talked to the financial coordinator, and I told her that was discrimination, that wasn't fair. And she said that was the law.
And what did you think at that time?
I was furious, but it seemed like there was nothing we could do about it.
A New Jersey state lawmaker is trying to do something about it. Assemblywoman Pamela Lampet is sponsoring a bill to update the language of the insurance mandate to allow it to apply to same-sex couples.
I think that there's a momentum, in front of us with all that's going on in the country, and I think the momentum is here and now to be able to move this forward.
We have this goal, and we're not quitters, and we're going to fight until it happens.
The Krupas, meanwhile, are pursuing change a different way with a lawyer. Along with another lesbian couple, they filed a federal lawsuit against the head of the New Jersey state agency that regulates insurance companies. The suit claims current New Jersey law discriminates based on sex and sexual orientation. A spokesman for the agency told us the department does not comment on pending or ongoing litigation. The Krupas tell us they've accepted they might never have a biological child, but say they hope to make things easier for families down the road.
We just want to help other people that are experiencing this.
It shouldn't be this painful.
Their lawsuit asks the court for an injunction to force a change to the state insurance mandate. It also seeks unspecified damages for mental anguish and pain and suffering. We should note the Krupas insurance company did eventually cover some of their infertility treatments, even though the law didn't require it. The company issued a statement to CBS News saying it supports a legislative review of the infertility mandate to clarify and simplify benefits for same-sex couples.
It's the festival of thousands of fabulous people, where it doesn't matter how old you are, whether you're a boy or girl.
I like girl stuff, so I like to, because this festival is a great opportunity to go here.
Who you love, how you dress.
I have a lot of outfits, and all of wings, so I'm pretty girly, but that's all of this.
Or where you come from.
I'm from a little town about 30 minutes north of here called Hutto. Being all the, every age group and every gender, it's really awesome because I get to see that there's old people that are gay, there's young people that are learning about themselves.
I love you, sister.
And the 2016 Austin Pride Festival wraps up this weekend.
Hi, Austin.
With history being made.
It's Austin Pride.
For the first time, a transgender woman won the Miss Austin Pride pageant.
It means everything to me. At the end of the day, when I look in the mirror, I feel like I don't fit in anywhere, but I have found my home here with Austin Pride.
Vegas Van Cartier says competing in the pageant was a lot of hard work.
It's no joke. It's no joke. These girls come for blood.
And practice.
You have to do a bathing suit. evening gown and talent, and then on stage question and answer.
But it was all worth it in the end.
It changed my life, actually. Like, it really did. These people, I've always looked up to these people and what they do for our community and all the fundraising they do, and to know that I can finally be a part of it.
She says being Miss Pride Austin 2016 is more than just a title.
And here, there's no judgment. There's no box you have to fit into. There's nothing that says you have to fit that cookie cutter mold. And you can just be yourself, and everybody loves everybody.
A celebration of love and people, making Pride something Little Max says is his favorite.
Favorite thing about it is celebrating boys and girls that like things of other genders. There are a lot of people that like stuff, so I think that's why they created this festival to celebrate their personalities.
It's an ordinary neighborhood in East Beijing, and most residents never think about what these cracks could mean. But new research done by the Chinese Academy of Surveying and Mapping shows their neighborhood is sinking into the ground. We can tell there's a big gap between the wall of the building and the ground, which is about 10 centimeters or about 4 inches. As we know, the foundation beneath the building is quite deep, ranging from 20 to 30 meters. Its subsidence rate is much lower than the ground. So as the ground sinks faster than the building, year after year, a gap formed, which ultimately will lead to affecting the stability and the safety of the building. People living here use concrete to fill the cracks, but that's only a short-term solution to a problem that's not going away anytime soon. The land is sinking slowly and rarely causes serious problems. But still, there is damage being done.
Ground subsidence may cause a lot of problems to our society. It will damage buildings, or damaging ground pipelines, exacerbate urban flooding, and it will also threaten the safety of high-speed railway.
Beijing's eastern districts have sunk the most. Affected areas include the city's major business districts and a lot of new residential buildings. One eastern neighborhood has sunk about 1.8 meters since 1992. The Chinese Academy of Surveying and Mapping says the fastest drop has been 15 centimeters a year. Most experts believe poor underground water management is the cause.
Because of the low amount of rainfall and high demand for water, Beijing has been pumping too much underground water. The city can safely use about 1,600 million cubic meters of underground water each year. But in 2011, for example, it pumped as many as 500 million cubic meters more than that.
Experts say about 40% of Beijing has been negatively affected by the city's overuse of underground water. But a new resource project called the South to North Water Diversion Program is helping China's capital stay afloat. The project transfers water from the Yangtze River in southern China to the country's more arid and industrialized north. The South to North Water Diversion Program started diverting water to Beijing back in 2008, and the quantity of water being pumped up north has gone up every year. Beijing's still sinking, but it's no longer sinking as fast as before.
WA scientists are sounding the alarm that rising sea levels are starting to affect one of our city's oldest districts. Much of Fremantle's historic West End is built on land reclaimed from the ocean, and already basements are flooding.
From this angle, you can almost see Fremantle as a thriving gold rush town, and some of these buildings date back to the earliest days of the Swan River colony. But Freo's historic West End is under threat.
There's no doubt one of the most important historical places in Western Australia.
This brick border marks the original coastline of Fremantle. Much of the land around its harbours was reclaimed, and now it's one of WA's most vulnerable spots for rising sea levels.
It was not built high enough. Obviously at that time they were not aware that the seas will rise. So if you actually go to Venice, the water actually bubbles out from all the storm drains, and that's the type of scenario you're looking at.
Some parts of Fremantle's West End are just 90 centimetres above sea level, and water levels have already risen 20 centimetres since 1900. At that pace and acceleration of rising sea levels, the lowest lying buildings could face major problems in the coming decades. Basements like this one are common throughout Fremantle's West End, and a number of building owners have already had to install pumps which are working 24/7 to save their foundations.
You can see where they're either being pumped or they actually already do have water in them. So that's going to be an ongoing and growing issue over time.
And this is what happens when sea levels get to the extra 1 metre predicted by climate scientists for 2100. With storm surges, it would be catastrophic for Fremantle.
Groundwater in these areas would be high. And then if you had a storm surge, you would have that.
The City of Fremantle is part of the Cockburn Sound Coastal Alliance, a group of councils considering major engineering works to protect built and natural assets from climate change. They're looking at everything from storm surge barriers, like the one on London's Thames, through to groundwater pumping systems.
I want the beautiful West End to be here for the next 200 years, and we need to make sure we actually start protecting it and planning for that as we go forward.
The City of Fremantle will release its climate change plan in the coming weeks. Jane Griliasic, 9 News.
Now at 11, new drone video from inside a now reopened Florida sinkhole. This same sinkhole swallowed and killed a man 2 years ago just outside Tampa. CBS 4's Kendra Conlon reports now from Seffner.
Right now, the county has posted no trespassing signs. The sinkhole is fenced off and taped up until it can be filled once again. You can see the plaque here honoring the life lost and 3 homes demolished. This new collapse now worries neighbors once again. What's going on underground?
I come back here every day.
Jeremy Bush visits this spot where his home used to stand, where he jumped into the sinkhole in his brother's bedroom trying to save him back in 2013. But it was too late. Jeffrey's body was never found.
We think about our brother every day. My mom thinks about her son every day. She has a hard time right now.
Harder now that the exact hole that took Jeffrey and their home is back open.
It's hard to believe.
It was shocking when I saw that it opened again.
Neighbor Irvin Charles saw the tragedy unfold 2.5 years ago. The county bought and leveled Bush's house and the ones on either side.
Hey, maybe take one more home because we're that close to it.
In Sinkhole Alley, he had his own property tested and worries he may have to again.
Test the ground, test the soil to make sure that we were also, out of harm's way.
He warns others to check your homeowner's policy and know what's covered.
I would rather pay it, just know that I'm safe.
The county had filled the hole with gravel, insisting that was the better option to prevent it from getting bigger. They plan to fill the hole with gravel again, but this time pack it with water, trying to stop this from happening again. In Seffner, Kendra Conlon, CBS 4 News Tonight.
We begin with breaking news. 2 sinkholes have opened up on the Florida Turnpike, creating a traffic nightmare for drivers. Let's get right out to CBS 4's Donna Rapato live along the Turnpike in Miami Gardens. Donna.
Vanessa, everyone, let me give you a better idea of where we are. This is the southbound lanes of the Turnpike here in Miami Gardens. That's the northbound. That is headed right to the entrance of the ramp that takes you west on the Turnpike that straddles Miami Gardens to the south, Miramar to the north. That right back there is former Dolphin Stadium, now Hard Rock Stadium. And if you take a look behind me, you can see the 2 gaping sinkholes just feet from where we are standing. And these are crews out here assessing the damage. Let's look at some even better video where you get a much better idea of the situation here on the Turnpike, headed south near Northwest 199th Street by the stadium. It started out with the first sinkhole close to the shoulder where you see water from the main break gushing off into the canal. About an hour or so later, later, the second hole started crumbling about 5 feet from the first one. Now a water-filled gaping hole in the first and second lanes from the shoulder. Florida Highway Patrol says a busted water main break is to blame.
No one was hurt. That is our mission, always to protect the motorists. So we closed off the road, and this is where we're at right now. We're assessing the damage to the road. We know that there's a water main line that broke and caused this damage. We contacted all the authorities that are out here trying to resolve this problem.
And take a look at this video we shot just as the road collapsed, water gushing, the pavement crumbling like a cookie. FHP pointed out it's amazing no one drove over the soft spot. That would have been the worst case scenario. Of course, at 75 miles an hour, it would likely have killed anyone in the car. Now, we're back out live. Crews again assessing the damage and the rest of the surrounding ground. It is unclear how long this portion of the turnpike southbound near the stadium will stay closed, but you can certainly expect that to be the case for the rest of today.
We still have remaining concerns for Hawaii. We're calling this Hawaii double tropical trouble. I know it's a mouthful, but the story is that Madeline continues to strengthen as it moves off towards the west. Now, it's looking likely that the Big Island and beyond could take a direct hit from this. And you can see that Madeline is still forecast to strengthen as we go through the next couple of days. So pretty much from midweek on, any interest in Hawaii need to pay attention. But even after that, as we get closer to Labor Day weekend, if you're heading off to Hawaii, if you live there, we've got Hurricane Lester on Madeline's heels. So again, it's a very serious situation. This is a look at the rainfall forecast as we go through the weekend. Some spots could pick up 5 to 8 inches. We'll be watching closely.
The latest in a long list of provocations by the Iranians. As you pointed out, the USS Squall firing 3 warning shots at an Iranian vessel that engaged the U.S. patrol. And by last reports, that patrol was about 200 yards away from the Iranians when they were forced to fire those warning shots. Now, as you pointed out, this is not the first time we've heard about this, not even this week, if you can believe it. There was another engagement that happened on Wednesday when 4 Iranian boats came within 300 yards of the USS Nitz. U.S. officials say the Iranians were acting in an unprofessional and unsafe manner in that instance as well. Brett.
All right, Kevin, there's questions about the president's comments regarding the pallet of $400 million of cash sent to the Iranian regime back in January, and then the subsequent U.S. payments to the Islamic Republic. What can you tell us about all that?
Well, listen, the senior administration officials are telling me tonight the president didn't lie when he said the administration had to send $400 million in cash to the Iranians because we don't have an existing banking relationship with them. That was supposed to be the initial payment to pay Iran back for that money that they spent here in the States back in 1979. A deal fell through. Of course, you and I have talked about that at length. But what's interesting is that question became relevant because it was later revealed in reporting by the New York Sun and the AP that the administration was able to utilize a central bank to make 14 payments totaling $1.3 billion to the Iranians. Now, we don't know if that ultimately took the form of cash or check or an EFT, electronic funds transfer. But here's what the president said about the cash payment back on August 4th.
The reason that we had to give them cash is precisely because we are so strict in maintaining sanctions, and we do not have a banking relationship with Iran, that we couldn't send them a check, and we could not wire the money.
All right, so here's how the deal played out. Let's walk you through it. Back on January 17th, the administration sent that $400 million in cash, a combination of foreign currency, euros and whatnot for that deal back in '79 that fell through. 2 days later, the U.S. paid another $1.3 billion in interest using a still yet unnamed central bank to facilitate that transaction. That $1.3 billion coming from the Treasury's so-called judgment fund, broken up into 13 payments, each just shy of $100 million. Still no details, by the way, about that 14th payment worth $10.4 million. We also don't know how those funds were distributed. Was it cash? Was it a check? We don't know because the White House tonight refuses to say.
We haven't been as specific about the mechanism of the payment for the $1.3 billion in interest, other than to say that we had a similar arrangement with a central bank, also unnamed, to move money from the judgment fund to complete the commitments that we'd made in the context of this financial settlement.
Obviously, a number of questions remain tonight, Brett, and most notably, why not name the central bank? And what about that last payment for $10.4 million? questions that remain unanswered tonight.
The images are shocking. A boy, about 10 years old, gun in hand, appearing to execute two men said to be Russian spies. It's the latest propaganda video from the Islamic State. CCTV cannot independently verify the authenticity of the video. The boy is believed to be from Kazakhstan. He has appeared in previous ISIL videos training with other young boys. And children are being used for more than just propaganda. A bomb strapped to a girl of about 10 exploded in northern Nigeria on Saturday, killing at least 16. Authorities believe Boko Haram was behind the attack. This 14-year-old once carried a machine gun and fought with ISIL. He has since left the group, but would not allow his identity to be revealed. He says children make easy targets for terrorist recruiters.
ISIL prefers young children more than adults because they can convince children and wash their brains.
And once recruited, he says children make obedient soldiers.
If the prince orders a child to slaughter his father, the child will do it without hesitation.
Terrorist groups often show young people in their videos, and in 2014, ISIL presented young boys to a reporter from Vice News. U.S. authorities say Zareen Khan's teenage son was recruited by ISIL and attempted to travel to Syria to fight alongside the group's leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi.
We condemn this violence in the strongest possible terms. We condemn the brutal tactics of ISIS and groups like it. And we condemn the brainwashing and recruiting of children through the use of social media and the internet. And we have a message for ISIS, Mr. Baghdadi and his fellow social media recruiters. Leave our children alone.
Jim Spellman, CCTV, Washington.
Terror at 30,000 feet.
Yeah, our own aviation expert, who you're going to hear from shortly, is stressing that this was no ordinary emergency and could easily have resulted in somebody getting killed. As you can see from the pictures, part of an engine on this Southwest flight blew apart, and shrapnel may have penetrated the cabin itself.
Those images are disturbing. That cabin was filled with families with young children heading from New Orleans to Orlando. There was fear and confusion as the plane made an emergency landing. And ABC's Adrian Bankert is at Reagan National Airport for us this morning in Washington, D.C. with stories of the passengers and the audio from inside that cockpit. Hi, Adrian.
Hello to you and good morning. Yes, one passenger describing her young children screaming and crying, an explosion, smoke, and the plane violently shaking. This morning, stunning new images of an in-air emergency.
It sounded like an 18-wheeler tire blowing, and you sort of smelling smoke.
This Southwest flight from New Orleans to Orlando suffering a catastrophic engine failure mid-air.
Engine failure, number one engine, we're descending.
Out of the 737's left windows, the 99 passengers on board had a clear view of the mangled engine housing as oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling.
I looked out the window, I could see metal pieces flapping in the wind.
Children were screaming and crying.
In the cockpit, breathing heavily through their own oxygen masks, the pilots run through an emergency checklist.
Disengaged. Expected engine confirmed. We're down to the line.
This was an explosive event with this engine, and it put hot metal into the cabin, therefore losing the cabin pressurization. The mask dropped down, and people are having to get on oxygen masks.
The malfunction forcing the plane to divert to Pensacola, dropping over 20,000 feet in just 8 minutes.
Our ears started popping pretty bad since we were going down pretty fast.
So they're in an emergency descent. They're trying to take care of a sick engine and do this all the while making sure that the passengers are okay.
The Boeing 737 landing safely in Pensacola only about 30 minutes after takeoff. Southwest writing in a statement, initial reports indicate there were no injuries among the 99 passengers and 5 crew members on board, adding it is cooperating with an NTSB investigation.
Muslim women in France are now free to wear so-called burkinis after one town banned the full-body swimwear. France's top administrative court stepped in to overturn the ruling. Charlie D'Agata has more.
The burkini is back on the beach. The ban's been overturned in just one resort on the French Riviera, but it's expected to lead to the lifting of bans in all 30 coastal towns that had it in place. France's highest court agreed with the argument that the ban was a serious and clearly illegal violation of fundamental freedoms. Activist Marwan Mohammed said it effectively banned devout Muslims from the beach.
This impact is huge politically because it sends a clear message to the political elite that you cannot stigmatize part of the population just because of their religion.
Fining women, forcing them to disrobe, and images like these of police surrounding a Muslim woman in a headscarf triggered a fierce debate about women's rights and France's stout defense of secularism. For some beachgoers, the decision was a victory for common sense. France has more important things to worry about, she says. The fact they canceled the ban is fantastic. The town's mayor doesn't see it that way. Lionel Lucas said the ruling would only heighten tensions. I hope they're satisfied, he said. The rampant Islamization is progressing in our country. Nice and regions around it put the burkini ban in place after last month's ISIS-inspired terror attack. Local leaders argued the burkini was a risk to public order. The burkini's inventor, Australian Aheda Zanetti, said her design was never meant to symbolize any political or religious statement.
This is a swimsuit that represents freedom and sun and surf and happiness and swimming and leisure, family happiness.
In other words, pretty much just what everyone else wants when they go to the beach. For CBS This Morning Saturday, Charlie D'Agata, London.